Howdy everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 252 stroke build. This is about where we left it off in the last one, down to the frame, the engine, and the swing arm. I had to give my shoulder a couple more days to strengthen up and get a little more range of motion back in it before I felt good enough to pull the engine, but shoulder's feeling really good now. We've got some pretty good range of motion and strength out of it. So I think I'm ready to finally pull the engine in this episode. Now, you guys know my strength is definitely shredding these machines, but I am pretty proud of my mechanical ability that I've picked up over the last couple of years. Gotten really good at doing the routine maintenance, you know, chain, sprocket, oil, clutch plates, tires. I've even done a couple of top ends in my 450s, which I'm pretty proud of. I feel like that's kind of a gnarly task for someone who just grew up racing and not really coming from a family who's big on like do-it-yourself type stuff. But as far as diving into like the bottom end and diving deeper than just a top end, I am not that guy, pal. It's something I've always wanted to do, but given the fact that I am a professional racer, the speeds and the jumps that I'm hitting are quite a bit higher than the average Joe. If I overlook a tiny little detail that results in my bike blowing up when I'm going fourth gear wide open up Laraco's Leap or something like that, that can be quite catastrophic. So for that reason, I've stayed away from doing anything other than just a top end. You guys might hear my rooster through the wall. He's over there crowing away. Do you hear that? That's my boy. Someday, probably on like a CR250, I'll dive into a bottom end and do the whole shebang, and I'll be very cautious as I break it in, but this thing, I want to rip this thing bad. So as far as like the top end and cosmetics, I'm going to do all that. But luckily, Nick from Metro Lakes Racing is going to be helping me out. He's local to me up near Detroit in Michigan. He's like an hour and a half from my shop here. So today the goal is to pull this engine and bring it up to him. He's going to open up some things and just go over it with a fine tooth comb and make sure that this thing is ready for pro caliber riding. You know, he's done hundreds of these things. So if there's a tiny little thing out of place, he's going to catch it. Something that I could have very easily missed, and it could have ruined my day. So he's gonna check all the tolerances, make sure that everything is fully operational. Because as I said, it was making that weird little clicking noise, and he has some theories as to what it is. So I'll feel a heck of a lot better shredding this thing wide open, knowing that someone who knows what they're doing went over it with a fine tooth comb. And that's exactly what he's gonna do. So very appreciative that he's down to do that for me. I would appreciate it if you guys show him a little bit of love on the socials and stuff. Let him know that you appreciate it as well. So without further ado, let's get into tearing this thing apart. Once we get the engine back here, I'm finally going to break into, if you can see it through all the mess, I have a vapor blast cabinet over there that I've never actually used before. So I'm gonna pop the engine in there, vapor blast everything, and then I actually also ordered some Cerakote. So we're gonna take some of the covers off, get Cerakoting, and Cerakote some of the other parts that we already took off the bike. So without further ado, I'm gonna set you up on the tripod. We're gonna get this engine out of here, and we're gonna get headed up to Metro Lakes Racing, and we will get this engine restoration on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing but truth right there. We can get a nice good look at how grimy this thing really is. It's nice and corroded. Nothing you love to see, but it's okay, because this thing is gonna be beautiful when we're done with it. Tough part is out of the way. We'll head up and let Nick work his magic on it, and then we'll get it back here and beautify it. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up, dude?
Thank you very much for helping out with the build.
Of course, man.
Appreciate it, sir.
Nice to have you.
So yeah, first of all, thank you. Second of all, what's the plan with this guy today?
So pretty much we'll just basically go through the top end and just kind of check everything. Set ring gap, we'll clean up the power valve a little bit, check the head for, make sure it's nice and flat, we'll lap it, clean everything up, measure base gasket, and just kind of go through, make sure top end's safe and sound and gonna be reliable.
Excellent. That's why we brought it here, because yeah, that's a lot of stuff that wouldn't have gotten done if it was me doing it myself. So next time I hold this thing fourth gear wide open up the face of a jump, I shouldn't have any worries about it. So yeah, appreciate you doing that. I guess I'll let you do your thing, just kind of film the process here. We'll get this thing rolling. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
back at the shop now after seeing Nick work the vapor blast cabinet and seeing what it did to the cylinder. Absolutely convinced me to finally get mine up and going, and I rearranged the barn, and that's exactly what I did. So I actually have the exact same one as Nick. That's the Vapor Honing Technologies Weekend Warrior cabinet. I thought it was going to be way tougher to set up, which is kind of why I put it off for so long, but it was actually ridiculously simple, and it has quickly become my absolute favorite tool to use in the shop. Like, cannot believe I didn't get this thing set up sooner. These bolts came off of the race bike that I used all summer, and dude, they look absolutely brand new. Put the shine right back on those babies. So I'm very excited to see what it can do to our two-stroke build here. You guys can see the cylinder looks way too good for the rest of the engine. This is after me pretty extensively cleaning the whole rest of the engine, but you can see there's just no uniformity to the finish. It's got like, call it corrosion, but just like some dirt staining, just some general ugliness. You can tell it's a well-used engine. And although it looks okay, we like things super factory. So now I'm going to do probably one of the more controversial things that I have done or ever will do on this YouTube channel, and that is I'm going to vapor blast this entire engine just as it is, semi-fully assembled. Now I know there's probably some die-hard mechanics out there rushing to the YouTube comments to tell me not to do it, telling me how bad of an idea it is, and I know I did some research first. You will quickly find that this is a very controversial topic. Some people say absolutely don't do it, but there's also a lot of people who have said they've done it with absolutely no problem. So it's probably one of those things where technically you probably shouldn't do it, but you can get away with it if you're extremely, extremely careful and take the right steps. People just say don't do it because they know most people won't take the necessary precautions, but I will. And I'll run you through those before I actually throw it in the cabinet. But also, this isn't going to be a race bike for me. It's not like I'm gonna vapor hone the engine on my race bike 450 or anything. This is just a recreational play 252 stroke for me. So if it does blow up, it's not the end of the world. And if anything, that's just gonna generate more content, because then I will do my first bottom end on it. So I figure if there's any engine for me to learn on and see if you can vapor blast it, this would be the one, because the stakes are very low. So hopefully that makes sense. If in 2 months from now my engine is blown up, you guys can feel free to go in the comments and say I told you so, but the joke's on you, because then I'll just have more content on the channel. But let me run you through some of the things I'm doing to hopefully ensure that this thing will be all good to vapor blast. So obviously the main concern with vapor blasting an engine is that these are extremely fine glass beads that get shot at the part with a pretty high pressure water stream. So the fear is that any openings in the engine, the glass beads will get inside the engine and could potentially cause some damage. The main concern is that it will clog some of the oil feeds to the head on a 4-stroke. Of course, this is a 2-stroke though. It doesn't have as many complications like that as a 4-stroke would. So number one, it's a 2-stroke engine, so I feel a little bit better about that. But obviously I've gone ahead and taped off all of the holes that go into the engine really, really well. You can see I've done a combination of some really good 3M sticky duct tape, and then also on the flatter holes like this one here, or the one on the front where the exhaust goes, I actually cut out some old graphics because those are super, super sticky. Clean the surface off really well with some brake clean before sticking that over the holes. So that's some nice thick decal. We're not gonna blast through that with the glass beads or anything. Another precautionary step that I took is actually before I put the tape on, I stuffed a bunch of paper towel down inside of the hole. For one, obviously to plug it up a little bit better, but then also when we're done blasting it and I peel the tape off, whether the paper towel is dry or not, I will be able to tell whether any of the media actually got through the tape, and then I can just clean that area really nice once I'm all done. Furthermore, I will be taking this entire side case off. You can see we have the 2 center cases here, and on the left side of the engine, you're mostly seeing that left center case, but on the right side of the engine, you're mostly seeing this side case that you can actually take off without splitting the cases. So I will be taking that off and blasting and coating that separately, but the reason I'm leaving it on here now is because it obviously plugs up that entire side of the engine that would be exposed if I didn't have it on there. And most of the holes in the engine, like the kickstarter, the oil filler, some of the coolant lines, are on this case. So I actually don't have to spray the right side of this engine at all. which reduces a lot of the risk of it getting in these 3 holes. That's also true for the head. I have an anodized orange fat head that I'll be putting on this bike, so I don't actually need to blast the head of this thing, so that eliminates 2 more of the holes that are sketchy. I'll also be taking off the rad valve and blasting and coating this separately, so I don't need to blast anywhere near this one. And then if you flip the engine to the other side, one of the last 3 remaining holes is the clutch slave, which I will also take off and blast separately, so I don't need to get close to this hole. So really the only 2 problem areas are going to be where the countershaft sprocket goes and where the shift lever goes. You can see I've done many layers of tape there, and I'll be super careful not to blast those directly because there is some nice flat surface around the edges of this where I can just take some Scotch-Brite. So I don't need to get the nozzle very close to these at all. So I really won't be spraying directly at most of these holes. So I don't think the risk is as high as it would be in some cases. But if that's not enough, I am going to tune the blaster way down to like 15-20 PSI just to start out. The last thing that I finally did do is I thought it was pretty clever to leave the engine oil in this thing so that as soon as I'm done vapor blasting it, in the tiny off chance that some did get through, I'm gonna do like 3 oil flushes just to make sure that all of it gets out. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I think this is gonna be totally fine. Officially, I don't recommend this for you guys, but look, we're gonna learn together today whether this works out or not.
It's a beautiful day at the beach. I was losing my mind for about a week until I could call you up. You at the waterline, birds are flying up above. We both need a little love, hiding a million different things, waiting for the nighttime to see what it brings. And I'm still living deep in my head. Sometimes I feel
Well, I think that about does it. It's definitely still all covered in that sand. I'm gonna have to take this outside and hose it off, and then we will pop it on the bench and kind of go over it and see how it looks. But man, that looks good so far. Oh my goodness. I mean, I wouldn't say perfect by any means, but a million times better. And I was definitely running it at a pretty low PSI. Obviously, if I had the cases all pulled apart and everything, I could have cranked the PSI way up and gotten this thing super extra buttery and crispy. But like I always say, my channel is more focused on the riding side of things with a little bit of the bike build tossed in there for flavor. But realistically, I just want to get ripping this thing, and I want this to be ready by the time my shoulder is fully healed, which is only a couple weeks away. So I think the results for what it was, I mean, dude, like, are you serious? That looks absolutely unbelievable. But of course, what we're all interested to see, did any, oh dude, there's no way that tape is still on there so tight. Completely dry, baby. Absolutely no water or sand on that paper towel. So I'm thinking safe to say no water in there. Let's go ahead and check out all the other holes. These are the ones I'm a little concerned about. I was doing some heavy honing around here. But dude, I mean, these feel tight as well. Plus they have the rubber seals in there, so looks like maybe just a little sand is on there, but of course this is fully sealed into the engine, so you'd like to think that that did its job. It's not like it was high pressure sand and water hitting this area. Any of the stuff that got through obviously had to go all the way through and underneath the tape first, so it's most likely just sitting there. But I had planned on redoing these bearings anyways, and obviously anything that gets through here is just going to go into the engine oil, which I'm going to flush as well, so not a huge deal. Check out the shifter. Yeah, absolutely perfectly clean. No sand or water in there of any kind other than what just came off of my fingers. So I think we're looking good. Yeah, we're dialed there. Well, I am gonna go ahead and say extremely massive success today. Of course, we're still gonna have to make sure that nothing got in, take some covers off, kind of peek inside, do a couple oil flushes, but from what I'm seeing, I don't see anything that got through, so I think we're gonna be home free with this one, and the engine looks absolutely stellar back there. So again, if you guys are wondering which cabinet I have, that is the Vapor Honing Technology Weekend Warrior. It's a really great beginner cabinet, or just like a home garage or home race shop cabinet. As you can see, it's kind of self-contained. You can hook up water if you want to use the spray nozzle that's on the inside instead of using your garden hose outside. Pretty epic, nice and small. My air compressor is nothing special, and it gets away with it as long as I'm using a lower pressure. If I go up to like 100 PSI or something crazy, it is a little bit of a waiting game, waiting for the tank to fill and then blasting for a bit, waiting for the tank to fill. But the stuff I was doing today, I mean, I just flicked it on, let it run, and it was totally good the whole time. So epic. The results that I got with that thing absolutely would not be possible if you were just using Scotch-Brite and a buffer wheel or something like that. Like, just the nooks and crannies that you can get in, insane, and it took 5 minutes for me to do it. So another massive step closer to being done with the 252 stroke. I cannot wait to ride this thing. I have just under 4 weeks before my shoulder is ready to ride. As you can see, massive improvements from the last video I showed you guys. We're getting a little bit of the muscle back too. Look at that tiny little chicken wing, dude. I've got like no muscle anymore, but it's coming back. So this should be a good bike. Definitely lower horsepower than my 450, so it'll be a good bike to hop back on coming back from injury. So hopefully it'll still be warm enough by the time I'm ready to ride to hit some local backyard tracks. If not, we'll be heading south in no time. I'll bring my 450 and the 252 stroke, and we'll make awesome content. So I'm giving this one 10 out of 10. You guys will have to let me know down in the comments if you have any experience with vapor honing, if you have any tips for me, because I am definitely a beginner, but I've been getting some pretty good results with, you know, some of the parts for the 2-stroke. So next video will probably be vapor blasting a bunch of parts and Cerakoting a bunch of parts, because I did learn how to Cerakote as well. So that'll be an exciting video. And then after that, the bike is ready to go back together. So this build is going to come together insanely fast, and I'm ready for it. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.